Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis. This week on the CampHacker Podcast, we are talking about the value of finding or creating your own support or accountability network.
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
This Go Camp Pro podcast is sponsored in part by the American Camp Association, New York and New Jersey, dedicated to preserving, promoting, and enhancing the quality of the summer camp experience. Offering a wide range of professional development, including both in-person and virtual, their events are designed for all youth development professionals. More info can be found at acanyNJ.org. Hello, Camp Pros, and welcome to the CampHacker Podcast. I am Travis Allison. I help camps tell the story of what they do so that more kids get a chance to experience this wonderful thing that we call summer camp.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Hudson. I am a social worker and the director of Camp Highlight, a camp for children of LGBTQ parents. Hi.
And my name is Gabrielle Rail, and I'm one of the camp directors of Camp Waro. And Camp Waro is an all-girls camp, and we focus on creating a positive female community, and we do that while speaking in French and in English.
And my name's Joe Richards. I'm the executive director at Pierce Williams Summer Camp and Retreat Facility in Fingal, Ontario, part of the United Church of Canada's overnight camping network.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to the three of you, and to those of you watching and listening. This is episode 131. I think I had my numbering system off last time we recorded, but this is officially 131, and we wanted to spend some time today talking about your network as a camp professional. I think there's a lot of really lonely things about being a camp director. And it's important that you invest in yourself and in your community. And I really think this group is part of my investment in having a network. People that I can check in with regularly, people that we can have lots of laughs with, and be silly about lots of things, but also the serious points to check in on things and try out ideas, etc. So I think it's incredibly valuable. So we wanted to put some time into that today, especially we're recording in the end of September 2020. This is a time then people need all the support that they can get. And I think that there may be some inclination to just sort of pull back inside, but I think that's dangerous for camp people and for lots of people, really. So I wanted to talk about that. And so I'll turn to you first, Gab, and say, where do you find your network? Who are they, but where do you find the people that you rely on to bounce off ideas and give you support?
Mm-hmm. I'll start with it. For me, the easiest one is the people that I work or worked with at camp before, and there's a select few. There's the ones that want to be kept updated on camp, what's happening, who are we hiring, how are the kids, what's the gossip, what new buildings are going up, what new buildings are going down. Those individuals I don't confide in. I don't talk to you about my worries, my anxieties. I talk to the ones that genuinely care about me first above camp, and understand that the work that we're doing is taxing, and understand that we have to make tough decisions. And also, they can be sentimental over the changes that happen at camp, but they don't hold you responsible in the sense of, you're hurting their childhood memories or dreams. The ones that really, really want you to be happy at the end of the day. And the ones that are there to problem solve because they know how much camp means to you. So I really try to start with my first go-to, or I have a small group of people at Waro who really understand that camp is first a business, and that we're in the business of caring for people, and they care about me first. So those are the people I go to.
How about you, Chris?
This is a really difficult question for me because I think in some ways I'm still seeking that group.
Yeah.
So, at Camp Highlight, there's now 4 of us at the director level. There's me, another director, who's my friend Jackie, and then we hired 2 assistant directors. But when Jackie and I started this camp 10 years ago, we literally had a great idea. We literally loved kids and loved camp. We're like, let's just do it. And we did it without any support. We had to rely on each other. And over the past decade, I've certainly gotten more involved in the camp community. I've met other people who run camps, but even still, like a camp like ours, which is much shorter than most camps, much smaller than most camps, and has a really specific population, sometimes it's hard to get inspiration, to find commonality, even with other camp directors. And I know this, especially running this kind of business, it's really hard sometimes to describe to like all sorts, like governmental agencies, from like insurance companies to like, the state of Pennsylvania where our camp is, about like why we don't have to pay unemployment in quarters 1, 2, and 4. They ask every single year. It's like, oh, this is a seasonal business. What? How does that work? It can be, it's like you said, it can be very lonely. So I don't know if I have a great answer to this question. I'm just here to hear all your answers. Because, I'm still looking, but like to echo what Gabz said is that, it's usually the people that we work with, but even then it's just us at the director level, because all the counselors and the other staff, one of the staff said it to me point blank one day when I was like talking about ideas or whatever. And they didn't mean any disrespect by it, but they said, yeah, Chris, well, of course, you're thinking about camp every day, all year long, and I just don't. I show up in the summer to get this done. And I was like, T, got it. Totally hear you. And that's completely fair. Completely fair. And I think that's been really difficult for me. And I hope the answer for me going forward isn't going to be, well, yes, just the other director and the assistant directors, the only people I can turn to. I hope not. But yeah, I am still trying to figure that out for us.
Right. How about you, Joe?
I think for me, it's about I learned early and very young that it's lonely at the top when you're at a single camp. And I lucked into so many things when I looked backwards. I lucked into landing in full-time camping in the late 90s when camp fairs in the Toronto area were huge. So you built a community because you were going to these. Toronto had a ridiculous number of camp fairs at the time. Mm-hmm. And you would go to these camp fairs and see the same people, like 13 or 14 camp fairs where you're seeing different people. And then I was recruited to volunteer with the Ontario Camps Association. And then I happened to run into this a good friend from university who was directing at another private camp. And then we got married, right? Like it was this whole series of like, so I'm married to someone who has worked full-time in camping. And now she's in administration at school. But it's this whole idea that when I confide in things, I can confide in Red, and she knows exactly what is going on. But it's also this idea that we as people who are more mature in their camping experience should really do some more intros for young camping people. And I say that because one of my best camp friendships is with Mark Cooper, who's been a guest on our show, who during the pandemic is the only person I've gone out to lunch with in the past 6 months because I was buying scroll saws, but that's a different story. And
entirely different story.
And not a very short one.
No, not at all. It's several chapters long.
You guys, I tell you, I have it written down. It's right here in the book.
Don't you dare.
No.
Don't you dare.
But with Mark Cooper, what happened is we got introduced through a mutual camp friend, through an old buddy, Kyle Waxman, who did a whole bunch of website creation in the late 90s for private camps in the Toronto area. And so it's finding those people who can be your check-ins without you knowing, right? Like I've tried the mastermind idea where you set up a call and you try to get accountability that way. But I think I came to that way too late in my mind, right? In the sense, so what I what I treated it more like is making sure that I was checking in on them and keeping them accountable, because I didn't feel like that was totally necessary. I've gotten over the lonely feeling because at some point I just stopped caring that it was, I have a lot of good friends, and people who, if I need advice, I can call on. And the people you work with aren't always going to be the people you confide in, nor should they be if you're the top of the pile. So,
right.
It
sounds like Chris's struggle.
Can I ask a question then of everyone on this call?
Mm-hmm.
Is that you mentioned like friends and family members, Joe, and part of the struggle for my journey, I mean, there's probably a lot of camp people, is having my friends and family understand that what I do is a full-time job, is an actual career, that there's an industry around and behind it, and that it's like when I complain about work as it is, the answer isn't as quickly as like, well, I'll just play dodgeball with them or whatever. Like it, you know what I mean? And it can be very isolating with friends and family who do care about you and love you. And, my friends love the camp. They love the idea. They love what I do. But at the same time, they can't take it seriously, not as a slight to me, but just because their own limited lens on what camping is. Like, how do you bridge that with your friends and family?
Well, with me, it's just I happen to have a brother who's a full-time camp director.
Oh, that's lucky you.
Well, and that's just it. But it's it's part of our family model that people work at camp, and so for us, if friends don't understand, they're not going to be friends for very much, right? Like, if they need me to be at a wedding on a Friday in the, it used to be on a Saturday in the summer when I was working in private camp. If you wanted me to be at your wedding, I would not be there, because when you're working, that's parent visitor day, and you just can't do it. But yeah, I'm interested. I think that I've pared down my friends, so only friends who know get to be friends.
That's one way to do it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And it's harder. Obviously, it's harder with family that aren't part of it. And I think myself, Travis, and Joe are all in families that understand summer camp. My parents met at summer camp. They are the owners, and my mother's the director of the summer camp. My girlfriend also worked at summer camp. So I'm surrounded by people that totally get it. But I do remember my mother's the youngest of 4 older brothers. And I do remember her siblings being at camp and talking amongst themselves, about my mother as if she's like the cute little one. And she's,
right.
she's a badass lady, but and oh, she's so cute. And she runs this summer camp. And I really, for the first time, and she had mentioned to me that her family or my uncles don't understand what she does. And I think you're right. It's camps don't have a very good marketing reputation on being serious. And there's a whole national and international campaign, thanks to camp, that I'm part of, to help change the conversation of what we do at summer camp. It's extremely difficult of what we do. Closely to teachers are not understood on the work that they do and how hard it is. But I think that for the most part, it's inviting people, particularly to open day. I think opening day is a wonderful day for people that are close to you to come and see and observe, because there is that coming and going and organization and showing, what you do and if that's feasible for your organization. Obviously, there's restrictions and et cetera, but usually opening day, you can have other people on your site if you know them very well, just to show them and have that serious conversation and say, when you say, oh, just play dodgeball, I think sometimes we don't take childcare seriously, and this is a whole other podcast, but anytime when we're looking at childcare, this is not looked at as something that is worthy of expertise, is worthy of high decision-making, planning, education, all of the above put together. So explaining the work that we do, but having them see what you do, I think makes such a big difference. But the first date I went on with my now current girlfriend, my best friend when I was going on dates said to me, don't tell them for goodness sakes that you work at a summer camp. They're going to just keep that for the third date. Don't say anything. And so she had mentioned on our first date that she worked at a day camp. And so I said, oh, I work at a summer camp. And she was like, oh, you do? Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So I called my best friend and she was like, keep her, don't let her go anywhere. You're not going to find another one like her. But yeah, it's very tough. It's very tough because people don't understand the hard work and also not just the hard work, but that your focus goes 120% into what you're doing during a certain period of time. And that's complicated for new friends, of course. You have to tell them, I always tell new friends, I'm not going to talk to you for 3 months. And they think it's joking, but the good ones stick around. The not meant to be in September, we don't chat anymore.
There's an indoctrination with new friends.
Yeah.
So I am a very well organized person. If I tell you I'm going to be somewhere, I am absolutely going to be there. You know, if you're on my schedule, it's happening. But as it crests into May, I let people know, listen, I'm not a flake. But if you ask me to do something, I just may forget because, like you said, I'm 120% somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
New friends, that's like the crucible they go through. Either they can handle it or they can't. I was like, for 3.5 months, I'm gone. I'm just gone mentally. Luckily, most of my friends they don't understand, they don't understand the process. They don't understand why I get so anxious or why, they don't understand the highs and lows of it, but they understand the commitment part. So I guess that's a start.
Well, and I think it's really important that when we're looking for our own support networks, that you find people who have that knowledge, right? And that's where your friends, if they don't have camp experience, probably aren't going to be the support network that you need to get through the tough times. And that's the difficulty. I'm not saying I have zero friends who don't know camp, but it's closer to zero than it is to the other side, right? Like,
I suppose successfully weeded everyone else out.
Well, no,
Joe.
when I think about it, even when I think about it, what it is you have a ton of people that I grew up going to camp with, who all have other jobs now, but that live vicariously through you as a camp director, because they're like, we all said when we were CITs we were going to work at camp the rest of our lives. And those people you can vent to a little bit about it, but only if their kids don't go to camp with you, right? Like there's limits to things like that.
And I worry, Chris, that the answer is that you end up having to find camp people to be friends with.
That's what I'm getting. But that's partly what I know. I'll have to say the most surprising support network I have are our former campers who are adults now.
Wonderful. Yeah, so good.
Because especially, I just had lunch with one of my campers, was in town, and we were talking about COVID in the summer, and he knew that we had to take a pause on camp, and I was saying, as I always do, like I'm always worried about staffing. And he said, I'd love to come back if you'll have me. And I said, that I'm all fun and games, but on the work side, I'm a cruel and terrible boss. Right? I was like, because you understand that the magic that I do for you is an incredible amount of work. He was like, oh no, I totally understand. Because he was a CIT. And he spent every night crying because I was screaming at him, he's like, no, I get it, but I'm here for it, And so it's been very surprising that these young people they fully understand because they've seen it from that side, from the receiving side. Yeah. So I just have to basically wait till all my kids grow up, and then that's my support network.
You keep in touch with the ones, like hidden back of your head, like this one's going to be great when they get old.
Oh, we have a running list.
Yeah.
We have a running list that we pass around in Slack. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hey, Camp Mavericks. I am so pleased to be able to thank the ACA New York, New Jersey for their sponsorship of the CampHacker Podcast. There's some cool stuff going on this October that we wanted to make sure that we tell you about, focusing specifically on an event at the end of this month. So they have the Joe Kruger Youth Development Conference. It's going on virtually, and it'll happen on the 28th of October. Some great stuff going on there that we're really excited to help them promote. Thinking about what was learned in this summer and how can we use that for next year. We're all as camp professionals trying to figure out just some of the next steps to get us started. And this looks like a great event to give us some of the key things that we'll need. Lessons from 2020 that'll apply for 2021. All of this at this time on the 28th of October will focus on the social and emotional needs of our campers. So if you want more information, please, we hope you go and check out acanyNJ.org. Thanks, Camp Mavericks.
I think what we're talking about is value systems, and like Joe, a lot of my friends are past camp people that I've met and developed a relationship with over time. But I also do have a couple of gems that never went to camp and have experienced from coming to camp just to see what we do. And their value system is about creating a safe enough space for young people to really thrive. And I think that's who we're looking for. And you do need to translate, but what camp is for them, and we do need to educate. But what we're looking for is for people that are excited about the work that we do, and on the flip side, have an understanding that there's an insane amount of hard work that comes with running such an organization. And my landlord, who lives just above me in Montreal, and he's a sweet guy, and I've been living there for 15 years. And it just so happens to be that my neighbor, their kids started coming to our camp, and they said, well, why don't you come up with us and see what Camp War was.
So cool. Yeah.
And he came, and he's always been excited about when I talk about camp. I could see a sparkle in his eye. But when he came, in his lovely French accent, he's like, "Oh, Gabrielle, it's magic. It's girls, and it's empowering what you do." And his excitement just in that, and him and I have such a wonderful relationship. But there's a value system that he already had about taking care of each other and working hard for children and giving a space for young adults to learn. And I think those are the gems that you want to nab and introduce and bring into this world, because he's, in his early 70s, and he feels like he's rejuvenated just because he came for one day, So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. I think one of the challenges of being a professional in this and being tied up in this weird rhythm of a year that's so hard for people to understand, like Chris is talking about, my focus is somewhere for this period of time. Another camp director friend of mine talks about going into the tunnel. I have to tell my friends I'm going into the tunnel now. I'll call you when we get out of the tunnel. In a lot of ways, I've thought a lot about how this group experience, this intense experience, and what we accomplish in such a short period of time compares to being in an active military unit. Like that same kind of bonding, totally. That same heightened experience that's so intense that when it's over, it's it's a letdown for everybody. It's hard for camp people to go back into the mundane world and do that after having been through so much together. Obviously, the risk is different, and I don't mean to belittle that at all, but I just think that emotional connection is on that same level. And I think the letdown after it is a lot of the same, trying to find a spot to fit in, trying to find something that gives me the same amount of reward as my summer does, is hard for people to understand. And that's why I think that finding, even if they're not your camp people, but your camp people are the place to start to find those people that kind of get that thing that you go through.
I think that idea of building community, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for your own personal community that is outside of your camp. Because over the past 15 years living on site at camp, I've never gotten to the end of a summer and felt like I don't need to leave, right? I just get to go back up to my house that night and be like, great, this is what I do. And then what's going to happen on Monday? I'm going to walk back down the lane and I'm going to go to work again. And so it's a job. It's what I do and it's what I love. And my senior staff, my leadership team, there are some members who have they said, well, don't you get sad when we leave? And in my mind, I'm like, well, I might have said this out loud. I'm like, nope. I said, because it's part it's part of the cycle. And if we don't explain to these people now that it's part of the cycle, you're going to build it up that they can never have something as great as they have here. And that's where it's always nice to see a deer prancing through the lawn as you're doing a podcast, right? But if you build it up that it's this thing that can never be matched, then they only have letdowns ahead of them in life. And it's hard because my wife's an administrator at a school. And I think to myself, well, how would we create community? How would I create community if I was an administrator at a school? But it's difficult to create community when everybody goes home to their same life problems and their same crappy life situations, or right, that they hate what they do. And that's one of the things we get, is that camp is this extraordinary place where we do extraordinary things. And I think when I was talking to that leadership team member and saying, listen, I don't get sad because I know it's going to happen again next year, and it's going to be different, and it's going to be, you may or may not be here. And that will cause me a little bit of heart sadness if you're not, and I wanted you here. But if I don't want you here, then it's all the better, right? That you've left thinking that I like you. But I did do an alumni interview just the other day with a gentleman who brought up that he said that's one of the things he learned at camp, was that very talk that I gave him in the late aughts, right? Was that every summer is different and every summer is special. And if you come back, don't expect the same thing that you got before. And I think that when we look for our support systems, be they other camp directors, be they previous camp staff, be they camper parents, right? People who know sort of what you do. And that's the beauty, right? That in our community, I'm the same age as a bunch of camper parents. And so I can go to parties and they know exactly what I do. And they find what we do, this is it. They find what we do fascinating. They're like, well, what do you mean you do camp? Because they don't want to talk about the bank, or they don't want to talk about the stock market, or they don't want to talk about being an accountant, right? Because lots of people hate what they do.
That's the truth. That is absolutely the truth.
So I wonder, did you have a thought, Chris? Go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, you all have this camp background where it's like you grew up with people who went to camp, et cetera, et cetera. My parents immigrated here from Jamaica. They thought it was I think I mentioned this on a past episode. They thought it was, we were like the Jeffersons. We were moving on up. And so they sent my brother to summer camp, and they thought, this is great because this is what all the white families do, and we've made it, and et cetera, et cetera. And he hated it, so I never went. That's my deep dark secret. But, it has been trying to get my family to understand for the past 25 years why I am so depressed and upset at the end of the summer, and that this is normal, that this mourning period is normal, and it's nothing that I need to be cured of, and I don't need to be told it's just camp, or you don't know those kids, understanding, like, this is just part of the process. Like, I'm manic in June, and then I'm depressed in late August. Like, that's just the way it is. And this is just a quick story. My 80-year-old aunt she lives in Florida, near Fort Lauderdale. And she called me one day to say, I was in the supermarket and I saw this little girl and she was wearing your camp t-shirt in Florida.
Amazing. Yes.
And I was like, oh, what'd you do next? She's like, well, I followed her through the store and out into the parking lot. I was like, Auntie Joy, what are you doing? She's like, I asked her, did she go to the camp and what did she think about it? And my nephew runs it. And it was then that I feel like it was the first time that anyone older in my family was able to connect what I did to outcomes, because she met the girl. Yeah. And then when my aunt said that she was related to me, her eyes were like lit up. Yeah. Because you all think I'm cool, but my kids think I'm like a superhero.
So we know. That's why we keep going back to camp. As long as you have the right shoes, you're in.
So it's interesting. That's what I was ruminating on when I was listening to all of these stories and thinking about like who supports me. And so much it is, I think, Joe, you said this earlier, so much of it is that people understanding what it is, not necessarily the nitty gritty, because I would push that on a lot of people, but just understanding like, what do we do? What are the effects? And what's the cycle? What's my cycle for the year?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other part of that, Chris, and this is what your aunt was able to experience, is why you do it. Like, so they don't get why you do it until they meet somebody who looks up to Chris for all of the impact that he's had on her life. And then they're like, okay, so now I see that there is a why behind this. This is not a stuck in childhood Peter Pan thing. This is because kids change because of what we do. And yeah, I think that's the amazing part of getting that. I want to talk about a couple of things before we wrap up this topic in a few minutes. But what I was thinking of is, how can we give advice to people who are starting out or in a new camp job, and maybe they had a support team around them, or they had people, like I know people that have gone from a camp where, a whole bunch of staff live on site together and work around in this giant organization, and then they get hired on and they are the only camp director, or they're the only staff, and they're like, but I just don't know who to find and where to find those people. And so I think that my first piece of advice is to volunteer. Is to volunteer related to camp things. And this is kind of different depending on your jurisdiction, but when I was growing up as a camp director, it helped me to volunteer as a standards visitor because I got to see other camps and I got to learn good camp directory things. But that gave me the same gift that Joe had of meeting other camp directors and, just sitting down to lunch with them and making a joke in a crazy dining hall about just camp director things that you would get. And that's certainly how some of my best camp director friends we've met, through volunteering, being part of committees, et cetera. And I think that's a great way to look at making those connections. And there are certainly more and more ways to do that online. As meetings move online, you get more connection. And I get, for camp people, connecting online isn't always the most natural, or even sometimes give you the best benefit. But there's lots of seeds you could plant from volunteering and thinking about things like that.
I think as a young person, the ACA has a whole epic emerging professionals in camping. And that's one of the pieces of advice I would give to any American friends who are going into camping, is that even if you don't consider yourself to be emerging, is to reach out to a group like that, because the ACA is so huge compared with, so whether you're reaching out to EPIC or ACA, regional things, it's so huge compared with what we have here in Canada. And in Canada, if you're not based, I was lucky enough to be full-time at 2 private Toronto camps based out of Toronto for the winter. And so you have this connection of, 150 camp people or camps that are just private camps based out of Toronto for the winter, right? And so you can volunteer. There were committees. This is right. It's but I think searching out and having that. Having the will to go and search out those groups, to know that you need something.
Joe took my answer. I was going to say EPIC and ACA. That was my answer. We get a lot of emails, relatively. Oh, actually, no. We get a lot of emails from people who are interested in starting their own camps, and they ask us how to do it, since we've done it recently. I guess 10 years is recent for a lot of camps. And that's what I say, because ACA really changed the game for me as far as meeting other people who are doing what I did, and I didn't have to explain a lot of things about it. That has been super helpful. And just, engaging as many camp people as possible, because we're camp people and we're friendly and we're going to want to help anyway. And to ask all those questions, this couldn't be a better gang to join, to be honest.
Great. I would say that the other piece of advice, and then I'll turn to you folks to see if you have any final thoughts or things we haven't really covered. But Joe mentioned this idea of a mastermind group, and I love that. I have been able to, but they take a lot of work too. So loosely, a mastermind group is people who would understand your work, could give you some accountability, that you could meet with regularly, that you enjoy meeting with regularly, but people that you basically asking to challenge you on how you do things, and the ability to put out a problem to that group and have a number of brains on a problem. And mastermind groups take a lot of work to find the right ones. I'm in 2 mastermind groups, both of which are more than 5 years old. And I guess about 4 years old is the youngest. And but I've been in 3 or 4 or 5 before that, before I found the right groups. And I had to create all the groups. Like, I had to find people and call them and say, I want to spend time with you. I admire you. You're really smart. And I want to be around and learn from people. And I'm more than willing to share. Will you join me? And so they can be kind of formal. You want to look up how to run a summer camp mastermind. You can see that on the CampHacker blog, because I wrote about it a long time ago. But that is a nice group to know that you meet regularly, that you have a shorthand. You don't have to, meet a camp director and sort of catch them up on where you're at. But the people are like, and you said you're going to do this the last time we talked. How about it? Or you were really nervous about this conversation you were going to have with this staff member. How did that go? And I do, as I say, I think it's a lot of work to get set up and to find the right ones. But when you do, it's pretty magical. Any other thoughts or ideas or advice you would give to a new camp director? An interesting thing, and I think this is going to happen more in the next couple of years, is talking to people for whom camp directing is a second career or a third career. And so they're coming in as an older camp director. They're not starting in, the early 20s and growing up with a generation like that. Sometimes I find that hard. What advice would you give?
First, do it. Like, absolutely do it.
Yeah.
People are always like, oh, I had an idea about doing, having this sort of program for kids. I'm always like, do it. Why aren't you doing it? And
and I think
it started.
Yeah. And I think for older individuals, you can make genuine friendships and connections with younger staff members, and they have such great perspective. You sort of have to check your age at the door, in the sense of listening to people and hearing what they have to say and their perspective, and allowing them to support you. Because as as you get older, your staff stay the same age, and you need to show sort of that vulnerable side. But that is your community, and that's what we've chosen to be part of. And it's all right to be vulnerable in front of them. Obviously, we want to remain professional, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, it's always been about connecting with your associations, wherever you are staying, connecting with them, asking them what their resources are and how you can help volunteer. Because you really will meet people that are interested in making sure that camps are constantly bettering themselves. And I really believe in associations, because that's a collective group that is just trying to bring best practices to light. And we don't know everything. And learning from other people it's reassuring and it's humbling at the same time.
I think more people have started full-time in camping in the past 5 years than in a long time. And I'm not sure why that trend is, whether it's a trend of professionalism, which we all want. But I think that as older people join and in their second or third career, I think the important thing is to make sure, and this is an important note for young people too, you're not in competition with who you think you're in competition with. And if you don't communicate because you think they're the competition, you're going to lose out on friendships and things that can happen. And I think that that's the key, is finding other camps locally that you can call up a director and find out if they're full-time, if they're part-time, and go for lunch with them and set up these short conversations. Because the reality is, not every camp is suited for every kid. And my belief as a camp director is that I just want every kid to go to camp. They don't need to come to Pierce Williams, right? Because a camp on 180 acres of farmland in the middle of southwestern Ontario might not be what somebody pictures, right? They might want a lake, or they might be into sailing or into horseback riding. And so not every camp can serve every kid. And I think if you think you can as a camp director, you are spreading your net way too wide. I think that the sooner you get in the camping profession not thinking about competition or doing what the other people are doing, the sooner you'll create your own niche and a community that will live and last long after you're gone.
Well said.
Occasionally I say things well.
More than occasionally,
Often,
Jess.
often.
Yeah. Stop it.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap this up. So thank you to the three of you for sharing your advice. I would encourage folks to go to camphacker.tv/podcast to look for show notes and ways to contact us if you have follow-up questions to the stuff that people have said. That means that we're going to move on to our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
So we're excited to welcome you to many people's favorite section, maybe people's most expensive section of listening to the podcast. The tool of the week is something we ask each of our panelists to bring that helps make them be a better camp director. And if you've been listening for a long time, you'll know that the least expensive tools of the week have been $0. And by my calculation, the most expensive tool of the week is somewhere in the neighborhood of $65,000.
Yeah.
Is that just a new camp altogether? Like more land?
Tractors. Every time it's the tractors that are so
I believe
expensive.
it's the Bobcat Toolcat that still rules. And when I recently tried to purchase one, it was closer to $90,000.
Yeah.
I wanted all the attachments.
Yeah.
There you go.
I did not purchase it. Thank God.
I'm going to start off the tool of the week this time. I don't do that very often, but I am using this tool presently as we sit here. Above my camera and just on a magic arm, I've talked as a tool of magic arm before. You can see here I have a magic arm holding the sticker, just bends in all sorts of ways. On my magic arm, behind my camera, is an LED clock where the numbers are this tall. That I keep right above my camera so I can keep an eye. I, like many of you, although I've been at it for a lot more years, spend a lot of my day on Zoom. And we run shows and all that stuff. And for me, it's nice to be able to just know what time things are and know where we're at for calls. Or, sorry, I got to get ready. I need 5 minutes to get ready for my next call. But so for me, it's nice and easy to see. It's right above my camera. I can see it in my peripheral vision. It really is. The letters are 3 inches tall so that I can see them without being obvious about it. But it was super cheap. It's USB powered, so it just plugs into my little USB expander thing. And I think it cost me $12 on Amazon. And it is a tool that I use every day. And I love it. So I'd heartily recommend that one as my tool. Joe, what's your tool?
My tool is a website called Hiveper, HVPER, and it is the internet in one page. And I have been visiting it for years. It's the sort of go-to place for news blogs. So they give you the top 10 sort of stories for each news outlet. So from Reddit to BuzzFeed to Google to CNN to Fox News to, Time and Wired. And so I've been using the free version, and it's free, and a giant pop-up comes up on your screen, like not a pop-up, but just a bottom bar so that you have limited screen real estate. And then recently, a couple of weeks ago, knowing that I would be recovering from some surgery, I spent the $29 to get a full year of the Pro, which I can go to a dark mode. When I read it at night in bed, I don't wake my wife up, or I can reorganize the blocks so that I get the news feeds that I want, and go from there. So it's a simple thing that I don't need to go and search out news. It sort of all comes into one place, and so it's Hiveper.com.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. Chris?
So for the past couple of years, I've been using an app on my phone called Habitica. That's the word habit, ICA. And it's a way to gamify your life. So in the sense that to keep your to-do lists and keep you accountable. So the conceit of it is that it's like a role-playing game. And you have tasks, you have daily tasks, you have habits, and you have rewards. And so every time you do your tasks and you check them off, you get experience points, and then you gain levels, and you're either a rogue or a wizard, like it's Dungeons and Dragons inflected. And, the more tasks you accomplish and the more habits you stay on top of, the more gold you get. And you can use gold and you set your own rewards to buy yourself rewards. For instance, like I have to spend 250 gold pieces to buy myself a new Xbox game. So I know that if I want a new Xbox games, I got to check off everything on my list. So, and then of course, if you don't do your tasks, you lose hit points, you can lose levels, lose your gold, which is traumatizing, but you have no one to blame but yourself. So what the part of it that I really love is that you can go adventuring with other friends who are using Habitica, and you keep each other accountable. So if we were all adventuring together and Travis, you didn't complete your tasks, that harms me. So it's on me to be like, hey, Travis, how you doing? Did you get your stuff done? Because there are real world. All right, let me calm down. There are implications for me on my end. I started using it. A friend recommended it, and I cannot believe that it's still controlling my life to this degree. And it's super helpful. I have certainly hopped up out of bed because I'm like, man, if I don't do 20 push-ups right now, that dragon is going to slay me and I'm going to lose all my gold.
Right.
So there it is. It works for some people, doesn't work for others. If it works for you, it's going to really work though.
I love that. Gamify me. I love it. Gab, yours is also a form of organization, structure, and to-doing.
Yeah, it's called O-Waves, and this has been all over ADHD blogs and YouTube posts. And let's be honest, I never read the blogs, but I definitely saw the YouTube videos. So O-Waves is a type of calendar. It's basically looks like a pie chart, and it has a couple of categories to organize your day. And it goes with the theory of trying to not do too much in one day. So you want to have your big blocks first and then add the little pieces in afterwards. But just the way that it looks, it helps you understand where you're putting your energy, what you're putting your energy into, such as like work, eat, sleep, exercise, self-care, et cetera, et cetera. At the moment, it's only available for Apple users, but there's also a beta testing for Androids. It's okay, Joe. And Chris, there is a beta testing piece out. But the cool thing too is that you can save certain days as different categories. So maybe you have a day that's a strive day that you really want to get a lot of work done, or a Zen day, or a family day, and you can repurpose those days and adjust them accordingly. So visually, I find it really, really appealing and super easy, and it doesn't allow you to get too into too many details, as some people that are in ADHD just tend to go down a rabbit hole of dividing and calculating, and you just get lost in it. You just can't do that. So it's easy to look at and easy to plan. So O-Waves, only for Apple users.
For a very short period of time. Gab, you appear to be very outnumbered.
I see that.
By Android users.
Android for life.
No shade, no shade.
My son recently went back from Android. He bought his own iPhone.
Yeah.
I warned him against it. He'd been Android for years because that's all I would buy him. And he's like, hey, I just got iOS 14 and now I can do all the things I used to be able to do on Android. And I was like, he's like, everybody's so excited. I'm like, why are you so excited? Because they've been dealing with the same crappy home screen since 2006.
And the Android iPhone. Let's split
It's our
it up
next
family.
podcast, I think. I have words,
good.
but we can talk
It's
about
all
it
good.
later.
It's all good.
Excellent. Well, I want to take just a second now and give a shout out to two of our patrons on Patreon. So if you want to sponsor us or you want to support the show in any way, it helps us pay for Matt, our executive producer, who does our editing and all the organizing of this motley crew of very busy people. And we don't often do the things that he asks of us, but we're trying to do better this year. I want to thank two people who have been sponsoring the show as patrons for a very long time, 4 years. So I want to thank Angie and Teresa for their commitment to the CampHacker Podcast and to us putting out good stuff for camp directors around the world. And so with your help, Angie and Teresa, we were able to do that and to commit to another season, our 10th year in doing the CampHacker Podcast. So thank you both. They're not our only patrons, but just ones that I want to shout out for having sponsored us now for 83 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Both of them started at the same time. So I'm super grateful to both of them. And so in wrapping things up, we would be super grateful if you rated and reviewed this podcast. I know every podcast tells you to do that for a very specific reason, because it helps other camp pros find this show. And you can do that at camphacker.tv/iTunes if you're an Apple user. If you're like Joe and Chris and I and use other apps for podcasts, most of them have a way to rate that show, to rate our show there. I want to indeed thank Matt for all of his hard work. He pulls together all of the Go Camp Pro podcasts and does an amazing job of that. And I think that Matt is a gift to the camp industry, and I'm always grateful for him. So you can find his show notes and all of our past tools of the week, etc., at camphacker.tv/podcast. Joe, if people have follow-up questions, where can they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me through yoyojoe.com, yoyojoe.com, or they can find out about Pierce Williams and reach me through campisbetter.com. Life is good. Camp is better.
Thanks, Joe. Gab, how about you?
You can reach me on Instagram at Gabrielle Rail, Rail with 2 L's, or you can check out where I work at waro.com, OUAREAU.com.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here, Gab. And Chris, how about getting in touch with you?
You can write me at chris@camphighlight.com. You can follow me on Instagram at planetchris1, or you can check out Camp Highlight on Instagram at Camp Highlight.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing today, Chris. And we want to thank all of you for listening, for making us part of your dishwashing routine, or watching us on YouTube in a break over lunch, in your hard work. And we're so grateful to have you as part of this Camp Hacker show. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The Camp Hacker Podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening. Camp Hacker, bringing your world into focus.
Hey Camp Pros, we love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, we hope that whenever you share an idea that you learned from the Camp Hacker podcast, conference, summer camp professionals group, or wherever else, that you're quick to give credit where credit is due. That way, we can all encourage more camp pros to share the tips and tricks that will make camp better.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.